I'm Steve, for those of you who I haven't met yet. I'm working on the Bespoke team, and I'm going to talk about the Ionic framework today, which involves a little bit of PhoneGap and a little bit of Angular. So just real quick, these are the technologies we're going to talk about. This is PhoneGap, Angular.js, and then finally Ionic itself. All right, so let's present this. So has anyone worked with any of these before, PhoneGap or Ionic? Okay, a few nods, cool. Yeah, okay, great. I'm gonna make my notes a little bigger. So, all right, if anyone does want to play along, those are the technologies we talked about. You have Node already, real simple to npm install globally Ionic and Cordova. Ionic start, your app name. Tabs is one of their starter apps, and then Ionic serve to get going. So, Cordova PhoneGap. What is it? First, I'm going to kind of use the terms interchangeably. Technically, they're a little bit different. For our intents purposes, they can just be called the same exact thing, which will make it a lot easier. So it's a application container technology allowing you to create natively installed apps for mobile devices with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it's going to be a client-side product. It usually uses a single-page application paradigm, so a single HTML page is served up and handling all your application logic along with the JavaScript. And it's back-end agnostic, so it's meant to work with any server-side API for getting your data, updating your data. How does it work? It's going to open up a web view on the phone. A web view on your mobile device is basically a browser without any of the browser dressing, so no back buttons, no address bar, nothing like that. It just takes up the full screen, so it looks exactly like a native app. PhoneGap also gives you an API to tap into the phone's native functionality, so you can access things like the camera, open contacts, GPS, etc. And then the final output of that is going to be an app that you can put in the App Store or Google Play or whatever the distribution platform is. So why would you want to use it? It supports many different devices right now. PhoneGap does, so you can do iOS, Android development, Kindle, Windows Phone, BlackBerry. All those are supported right now on PhoneGap, and you can make apps for all these different platforms using pretty much one code base, one asterisk code base. And if you primarily write JavaScript, like me, it's very appealing because you can make all your mobile apps using JavaScript without having to get into Objective-C and Java, etc. So the drawbacks. As I said, it's mostly one code base. There are differences in the ways that the different platforms run their web views, and there are also different stylistic conventions for different platforms. So if you start building a product that you want to support a lot of those projects, and using PhoneGap, you're going to have to do a little bit of supporting code to work your iOS stuff in an iOS way, Android stuff Android way, and you might have different style sheets for each of them. Android, I'll show a little later, Android tends to have nav tabs on the top of the screen, iOS has them on the bottom of the device. So you're going to have to account for some little differences like that. There are some other gotchas too whenever you're trying to use web technology to run on mobile. Just a couple I'll mention. One is fast click. So when you're in a web view and you tap, the web view waits 300 milliseconds to see if you're going to double tap. So if you're not aware of that, and you're just going to have a very slow app. So there are libraries such as fast click, which will get around this, but that doesn't come right out of the box with PhoneGap. So you're going to have to kind of piece some of those together. You also can use CSS transforms to force GPU rendering and trigger the hardware acceleration. If you don't do that, some content, when you scroll, it's not going to show up until it actually gets on screen. So it's going to flash on screen. So there are some things that that PhoneGap doesn't solve for you that you're going to have to find some solutions and gather them. Also, in the web view, it's just not going to be as fast as a native device. So that brings us to Ionic. So Ionic is a framework for developing mobile apps using PhoneGap. You can think of it kind of like Twitter Bootstrap for mobile. It's a nice way to very quickly bootstrap and build and prototype your mobile apps. So Ionic, just have to scroll down in my notes here. All right. How does Ionic work? It uses Angular, and it's an Angular wrapper around with a lot of PhoneGap functionality. And then it also comes with a style sheet for mobile-friendly devices. So it has an iOS style, it has Android style. Right now it's just supporting those two platforms, but it has a lot of those right out of the box. So like any framework, Ionic's going to solve a lot of problems for you. Some of these common ones that you'll find. And it Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, so it has a fast click-like solution installed already, so it'll take care of that for you. It has the different style sheets, like I mentioned, for iOS and Android. It uses Angular's UI router to have state-based routing, so you can have different tabs, different states. Each of those will have their own navigation histories. I'll show that in the demo. And it also is it's a good product. It has a really strong community. There's a lot of people commenting. If you go on the message boards, you'll find that the core members are replying to a lot of questions, and they're coming up with a lot of new products. Very recently, they introduced a View app, so you can prototype on the phone, and they're introducing some new products as well. So their technology will probably be around for a little bit. And it has some really cool features. You can develop for iOS and Android in the same side-by-side tab, so you can see the differences you're making, how they affect both. And it has a lot of good mobile components. It has slide boxes. It has a lot of tabs, all the stuff that you find like with Twitter Bootstrap. It has a lot of those mobile problems solved for you already. Ionic View, which is the app I mentioned, you can actually prototype right on your phone. You can send it to your phone and start viewing it immediately. So if you're doing iOS, you don't have to get a developer certificate. You can kind of get around that and start looking at your phone right away. And okay, so I'll show a little bit. Go away, Drive. Cool. All right. So yeah, as we mentioned, here's Ionic. Here's some of the components that they have. So they've got all these styles, things that'll look very familiar for mobile devices. Cards, things like that. The JavaScript one is very cool. So they have things like slide box. So it has using CSS translates to switch things side to side, and has that kind of nice bounce back. So a lot of the components that are meant to be very mobile friendly. And let's take a look at the app. All right, where am I? So if we Ionic serve, this is their starter app, and you see it's got the little tabs for you. Let me do that I'll show you in the side-by-side view. Ionic serve lab. Okay, so here's the side-by-side. So you see the iOS and Android. So Android, you see it's got the tabs up here. It's got a little bit of different switch here than the iOS. So they solve a lot of those for you, but then again, things are going to start looking very similar. If a lot of people start doing that and use the same style sheet, so. The state-based routing, if you notice on the different tabs, each of these has their own navigation history. So you can click away and go back, and then you're still in this sub-state here. So that's very nice. And okay, cool. Let me just show you. I'll show you a little bit of the project that you get, the starter project. If I can find my mouse. Oh, that's Lando. I don't want that one. Okay, cool. So this is the project you get when you start out. It comes with the 3 different states. It has all your Angular bootstrapping here. These are the different tabs and the different sub-tab states. So that's how the UI router is handling the different 3 different screens for you. It uses Gulp for a task runner, which is very nice. It comes with a little bit of starter code for you to get that app running, as we saw. There are some drawbacks, some things I don't really like about Ionic. So right now it does only support iOS and Android. It is opinionated because it's a framework, so they kind of want you to solve things in the way that they've set up for you to solve them. There's that bootstrap problem where if things will start looking the same if everyone's using the same style sheet and lots of different products. And the startup app is actually not very ideal. It doesn't really follow Angular best practices, and it has you developing in this www folder. Whoops. Oh, where'd my project just disappeared again? Well, it has you developing in, if you've used PhoneGap before, you know that PhoneGap will read that www folder, and when it decides what it's going to build into the specific app. And so I'm working on a different starter project, so if anyone's interested about Ionic or PhoneGap, let me know, and I can share my starter project with you. That's all.